So, here we go. 26-19, very close, came down to the final play. You see Derek Carr over 300 yards, Burrow 244, very efficient with the 2 touchdowns. There was some controversy in the first half. We will get to that coming up. But you see a very sort of between the 20s efficient game with a lot of stalls in the red zone. If you look at the red zone, both teams in the red zone 5 times. Vegas, 1 touchdown out of 5. Cincy, 2 touchdowns out of 5. That 1 touchdown in the red zone, the difference in this game. And again, some controversy, which we will get to. All right, let's bring our guys in. Ryan Wilson, NFL draft, an NFL expert. And there he is, our 2-time Super Bowl champion, Bryant McFadden. What's your headline from this game? I'll tell you right now, for me, I said it's red zone failure. There are 10 red zone trips, and they only combined for 3 touchdowns out of the 10. Ryan Wilson, what's your takeaway here?
My takeaway, EK, is that the Bengals won a playoff game in the first time in 30-something years. And look, it felt like they backdoored their way into that thing the way the game ended. But it felt like to me that Bengals offense was in control for much of that game. Joe Burrow was the reason why. We saw Joe Mixon banged up a little bit, so he leaned on Jamar Chase, who had, again, over 100 receiving yards. So a rookie and a second-year player had a lot to do with the Bengals' success. They scored on 6 of 8 drives, again indicating that the Raiders struggles with getting off the field. The Raiders spent more time on the field this year than any other football team. I think you have to go all the way back to the 30s to find a team that played more minutes defensively. So you're exactly right. The Raiders didn't take advantage of all their opportunities, but I thought on the other side, in years past, where the Andy Dalton Bengals might have folded in the playoffs, and we know they did that on 4 separate occasions, did it one other time with A.J. McCarron. This team with Joe Burrow never felt like the moment was too big. They came out quick. They came out fast. They had 10-point leads at time. And while they didn't get off, they kept it close there at the end. I thought this was a huge showing by a Bengals offense and a Bengals organization that has been much maligned over the last 3 decades.
Yeah, for me, the biggest takeaway, I'm right there with Ryan. They finally won a playoff game. EK, you said Home Alone was the #1 movie in the country in 1990. I grew up a Home Alone fan. You know what I mean? So
I know. Why do you think I said that? You don't think I know your favorite Christmas movie is Home Alone?
You remember.
Of course I remember. You talk, I listen. We're tight. Of course I knew it was Home Alone. That was exclusively for you. I mean, we were 2 years away from a text message being sent.
You're my Secret Santa list, by the way.
You're
my Secret Santa guy next year. But for me, huge win for Cincinnati, obviously. But they scored 26 points, but it seemed like it was an ugly ball game for Cincinnati. We didn't see the efficient play that we've seen from them in weeks past in the regular season, but they still quietly scored 26 points. If this team is in their bag and having an A-like game, this offense can pretty much be almost unstoppable. And huge growth defensively for Cincinnati with so many key contributors, primarily speaking on the defensive line, out with an injury. They found a way to secure the ball game with that game-winning interception by Pratt. This is a team, you have to be mindful of these type of ball clubs in the postseason that continues to establish confidence, because this could be a scary, scary opportunity for whoever they face off against next week.
All right, now let's get to the controversy. And B-Mac, I'll go to you first because you played defensive back, and it affected the defensive backs. Joe Burrow is rolling right. It is, they're going in the red zone, and you can hear it. The whistle blows. Ready? Here you go. You're going to hear the whistle blow clear as day. The official blew the whistle. That's supposed to end it. The play is supposed to be dead as soon as you hear this.
I agree.
And they called it a touchdown. You can tell one of the officials thought Burrow stepped out of bounds. Everybody stopped. Now, he didn't step out of bounds, but the whistle blew. People stopped, but they still counted the touchdown anyway. And this is not the right ruling. Our rules analyst, Gene Sarator, said, bad job, terrible ruling. Once the whistle blows, it is dead. You see the tweet right there. So they got a touchdown on a play where they clearly should not. This is not one of those judgment type of things. Even if you're a dyed-in-the-wool Bengal fan, you heard the whistle too. So it was early enough in the game, but it was a big touchdown. How big is this play on this outcome? B-Mac.
It's big enough that the Raiders are now out of the playoffs. Think about that. That was third down, by the way, guys. That was third down. So if that touchdown did not happen, it's safe to say the Cincinnati Bengals would have settled for a field goal attempt, right? And you still got to make that field goal attempt. Look at Morig. I think that's a safety, right? He pulled up. We're taught as players, defenders, when you hear the whistle, to stop, especially in today's ball games, when you look at how much they protect offensive players. He pulled up. And even, boy, when he caught the football, it was like he casually celebrated because he didn't know if it actually counted because he heard the whistle also. This will be a controversy call for quite some time, especially when you look at the Raiders and looking at how the game ended. They lost by 7 points. 7 points. That's a horrible way to end your season. I'm not saying that play solely was the reason why they lost, because you had a lot of football left to be played, but clearly it didn't help their chances.
All right, look, it's not the sole reason they lost. I agree with that. But Ryan, how much, if you're now you're not a Raider fan, you're not a Bengal fan, you're just telling the story of this game. How big is that play when you're telling the story of this game?
I got to push back against BMAC, and he's a former Steeler. I'm a Steelers homer. That had zero impact. And by the way, and you know this, BMAC, Trevon Merrick stopped running. He stopped running after Tyler Boyd caught the ball. Tyler Boyd looked back because he heard a whistle that the guy blew that he shouldn't have blown. I don't know what the official was looking at, and we can say that every week. And according to the rules, yes, you have to replay that down because it was an erroneous whistle. That doesn't change the fact that Joe Burrow made the play, Trevon Merrick got beat, Tyler Boyd caught the ball in the back of the end zone. And one of my pet peeves, and BMAC, I wanted to bring this up because I love this 2005 playoff game. Colts, Steelers, you were a rookie that season. Remember Troy Polamalu had that interception in the middle of the field, and they somehow missed that call and they overturned it? What did Bill Cowher tell you guys? Don't worry about it. We got to play football. And Bisaccia said the same thing at halftime, but you guys powered through on the road in a stadium where they're pumping in fake crowd noise. It didn't matter at the end of the day. I don't think the Raiders would tell you, if they're being honest, that was the difference. It's annoying. It was a terrible call, no doubt about it. But Trevon Merrick wasn't in good coverage. It was a great play by Joe Burrow. And the biggest question to me is, what is the official looking at? He is literally 18 inches away from Joe Burrow's feet, and my man blew the whistle a half a second before Tyler Boyd caught the ball. He didn't blow the whistle right away, EK. So I don't know. The chain of events is messed up if you're an official and if you're trying to explain what happened like Gene Steratore was. But at the end of the day, it was a touchdown. If you had your television on mute, you go, oh, that's a great play by Joe Burrow. And I think that's how we have to look at it.
Well, Ryan, I think it's unfair to compare the Las Vegas Raiders of 2021 to the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers. That's an unfair comparison because we were a championship-like team, and granted, our defense was stout. And yes, you're right. BC said, don't worry about that bad call. Do not allow it to define who you are as a ball club, and let's go out and take care of business. So we did. For the Raiders, they needed every break they could potentially get. That defense has been watered down. Let's keep it real. They haven't been a stout unit. They've been known to give up a lot of things. So granted, that particular play really hurt. They needed that. So I understand what you're saying, and I agree. That one play is not the reason why they lost. But clearly it didn't help their chances in winning.
All right, let's look at Cincinnati going forward and spin it forward. What did you like about this game that they can take going into their next matchup? And what would concern you if you were a Bengal fan, Bengal coach, Bengal player about what you saw today? Bryant McFadden.
I love what I saw from Joe Burrow. Rookie quarterback making his first appearance in the playoffs, looked real good, was smooth. The connection between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase will be something that we will all remember throughout this first rookie run for the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. So I love what I saw from the quarterback. The issue that I have, they just got away from the running game. Joe Mixon is an outstanding dual threat runner. Not just catching the football, but he can do a lot of damage running the football. In that first meeting, when they took care of business week 11 against the Raiders, Joe Mixon had over 130 yards. He is that type of running back. So I didn't like that they got so caught up in the hype of their young quarterback. They just wanted to put him on display, and they just kind of forgot about the ground and pound game, especially in the second half when you have that lead and you have the ultimate closer behind you in Joe Mixon.
Ryan?
No, I think that's exactly right, BMAC. I like the offensive side of the ball, to what we saw from Joe Burrow. My biggest concern, EK and BMAC, is the defense, and not the way the defense played, because BMAC noted how these guys are getting after it. But they had some injuries. Daniels got hurt along the defensive line. Okunjobi got hurt along the defensive line. Trey Hendrickson had to leave. Mike Hilton left for a couple plays. So that's the concern going forward, because they're going to play next week. How healthy can these guys get in 6 or 7 days, and what is that going to look like against whoever the opponent ends up being? And the only other thing I'm concerned with is Joe Mixon's health. He went off in the second half, got his ankle tape, came back. Didn't look quite as effective, but as BMAC noted, they weren't leaning on him either, which has been a recurring theme at points this season. So I think, fingers crossed, you get these guys close to full health, and then, they can play anybody. And the good news for them is they won't have to play both of the top teams in the AFC should they get through next week. And there's a chance, is what we like to say on the Pick Six podcast. I mean, you have to be extremely happy, not with just this win this week if you're the Bengals, but what it could mean going forward in next week's matchup.
Yeah, to me, you got to do better in the red zone if you're the Bengals. That's the one spot. You can't have 5 trips to the red zone, and a majority of those, you can't punch it in. That may have worked today against the Raiders, who had red zone issues of their own. But when you go up in class, if you don't make touchdowns and instead you're kicking field goals, you're going to be watching other teams. They better work on what they're doing in the red zone if they want to get home and have a really magical season in Cincinnati. Well done, gentlemen. All right, Jamar Chase, including the playoffs. Now, look, he's had 18 games, so it's not exactly. You got a guy in 1960. Right? Bill Groman's like, hey, dude, let's do this per game, and I'm number 1. And then a couple of Vikes, Randy Moss and Justin Jefferson, who was Jamar Chase's teammate at LSU when Joe Burrow was their quarterback. Naturally, they won the national championship.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.